I have lived long enough to see empires rise and fall, to watch proud fleets burn and star systems vanish from maps as though they had never existed. I have witnessed cruelty in 1,000 forms and mercy in almost none. Yet for all that experience, nothing ever carved itself so deeply into my being as the day I first crossed paths with a human. You may think me exaggerating, the way old veterans embellish to keep young ears listening. You are wrong. If there is one truth I can offer you before my time in this world ends, it is this: pray you never meet a human. It is difficult for you to understand why I speak this way, because in your lifetimes, no trace of them has been seen. To you, they are myths, old stories used to frighten cadets into discipline. You laugh when you hear the word, as though I speak of ghosts. But I assure you, I touched one, I heard its voice, and I carry the proof in scars no healer can mend. I am not alone, though the others who shared that moment are either long dead or silenced by fear. Those who survive keep quiet because they know what I know, speak too loudly of humans, and you awaken nightmares best left to rot in the dark. When I first heard the name, I imagined something crude and unremarkable, one more branch of the countless fragile creatures that flicker briefly in the void before vanishing into irrelevance. And indeed, at first glance, humans deceive. They appear frail, unimpressive compared to the strength of our kind, smaller than the warriors you trained beside, with no claws, no armor, no natural weapons worth respect. If you had seen what I saw that day, you would have thought as I did, that such a thing could not possibly matter. That its presence was an accident, a relic washed up from some forgotten era. But the universe has a cruel way of correcting arrogance. That frail figure became a wound that has never closed in my mind. It was not its strength that unsettled me, nor its voice, nor even its knowledge. It was the eyes. They carried something no other species has ever possessed. A fire so old, so fierce, that I could not look too long without feeling it cut into me. You have seen predators glare with hunger, you have seen leaders radiate command, but you have never seen eyes that hold all emotions at once: grief, fury, hope, and something colder than the void itself. That is what humans are. They are a contradiction made flesh, and that is what makes them unbearable to face. I remember the silence after it first spoke. My companions exchanged glances, uncertain whether to laugh or strike. The human did not bow, did not beg, did not even raise its voice. It merely asked a question, simple words that should have meant nothing. But beneath the words was a weight, a challenge. Every syllable told us that we were being measured, studied, weighed against some secret scale. And in that moment I realized we were not in control. Understand this: I have fought beings larger than starships, beings that warp reality with a gesture, and none of them chilled me the way that human did by simply existing. There was no roar, no flash of power, only a stillness that promised consequences. It was as though the galaxy itself paused to listen, wary of what this fragile-looking creature might decide to do next. I wish I could tell you I dismissed it, that I ignored the feeling, but the truth is that my body betrayed me. Every instinct screamed to retreat, though pride locked my limbs in place. You will hear scholars dismiss humans as anomalies, evolutionary accidents burned away by history. Do not believe them. What I witnessed was no accident. It was something designed by struggle, forged in pain, sharpened by desperation beyond anything we can imagine. The human was not mighty because of strength, it was mighty because nothing in existence had broken it, and I doubt anything ever could. Even now, cycles later, I sometimes wake in the darkness convinced those eyes are watching me again, waiting. And though my rational mind knows better, another part whispers that it has not ended, that somewhere out there the same fire still burns, biding its time. That is why I tell you these words. This is not a tale to impress you, nor a warning spoken lightly. This is a truth carved into the bones of the universe. If ever you find yourself standing before a human, do not look upon it as a curiosity. Do not think of it as fragile. Do not think of it as anything less than the end of everything you value. Pray, with all your strength, that such a day never comes. The place where I first encountered it was not a battlefield, nor a throne room, but the carcass of a ship left to rot on the edge of forgotten space. We were scavengers then, chasing whispers of abandoned technology and lost wealth. The vessel drifted without power, its hull torn open, systems gutted, a hollow shell not worth the risk to most. Yet something about it drew us, some quiet gravity that promised secrets. I thought it only wreckage. I was wrong. Within that broken shell, the human waited. The corridors stank of rust and stale air, the kind of staleness that clings to old bones. My crew moved with confidence, practiced in stripping derelicts bare. Every compartment revealed only ruin, burned panels, fractured walls, machinery long scavenged by others before us. But then, in the deepest section, a door half-sealed and fused shut caught our attention. We pried it open, expecting supplies or weapons hidden away. Instead, we found it. At first, I did not recognize what I saw. The figure sat against the wall, motionless, head bowed, shadows veiling its features. My first thought was that it was dead, one more husk abandoned by time. Then it raised its head. The eyes met mine. Not the glazed look of one resigned to death, but a steady, unblinking stare that reached into me with unsettling clarity. For a heartbeat I believed it could see every weakness I had ever tried to bury. It stood slowly, movements deliberate, unhurried. There was no panic, no attempt to hide. It looked small, skin marked by old scars, clothing ragged from long use. My companions laughed, their voices mocking, dismissing the creature as a survivor too stubborn to die. But I could not laugh. The calmness unsettled me. There was no fear, no trembling. It regarded us as though we were the intruders, and in truth, perhaps we were. We questioned it. The words it spoke were strange, heavily accented, but the meaning was clear enough. It asked who we were, where we came from, what year it was. Nothing in its tone suggested weakness. My companions answered with half-truths, as scavengers often do, expecting it to beg for rescue or food. Instead, it only nodded, as though filing every word into some precise order in its mind. Then it asked the question that silenced all of us: had the war ended? None of us knew what war it spoke of, yet the way it asked chilled me. The words carried an old weight, as if war was not an event but a state of existence for its kind. We searched the chamber, and while others focused on scraps of salvage, I kept my eyes on the human. It watched us work without moving, gaze flicking across every action, noting tools, weapons, patterns of speech. The more I observed, the clearer it became that it was studying us as intently as we were studying it. Not once did it lower its eyes or avert its gaze, even when threatened. It was as though fear did not exist within it. One of my crew, impatient with its silence, shoved the creature, laughing when it stumbled. The human did not react as most beings would. There was no outburst, no display of submission. It simply steadied itself, straightened, and looked at him with that same unsettling calm. The laughter faltered. Something in that gaze pressed back harder than any weapon. My companion turned away, muttering, unwilling to meet those eyes again. Later, as we debated what to do, the human spoke again. It asked about the galaxy beyond, names of worlds, names of powers. When we gave answers, it repeated them softly, committing them to memory. Every question was careful, precise, as if it was assembling a map inside its mind. And though its body bore the marks of suffering, its spirit remained unbroken, untouched by despair. That was when unease took root in all of us, though none dared speak it aloud. Looking back, I know now why the memory burns so deeply. It was not strength that unnerved us, nor the scars, nor the hollow cheeks of one who had gone too long without nourishment. It was the unshakable composure, the sense that nothing we did could bend it. The more we tried to see frailty, the clearer its endurance became. And within that endurance lay something dangerous, something we could not yet name but instinctively feared. I remember the final moments before we left that chamber. The human leaned against the wall once more, silent, as though waiting for some invisible signal. As we retreated down the corridor, I risked one last glance. It was watching us still, eyes reflecting the faintest light, unwavering, patient. In that stare I understood something none of us wanted to admit. It was not stranded prey waiting to be saved. It was a survivor who had endured far worse than we could imagine, and it was measuring how long it would need to endure us. For a time we convinced ourselves that it was harmless, that its body betrayed what it truly was, a fragile relic. That lie did not survive long. The truth revealed itself not in a single moment of violence, but through the slow erosion of every assumption we held. The human never raised its voice, never postured, never tried to prove itself. Instead, it showed what it was in small, terrifying increments that together painted a picture more dreadful than any beast or machine of war. The first sign was endurance. In the freezing air of the derelict, where our breath condensed into mist and our bodies ached from the cold, the human moved with no complaint. My crew layered themselves in thermal gear, but the human wrapped in torn cloth carried on as though the chill were nothing more than an inconvenience. Days passed in salvage work, and still it showed no weakness. Where we rationed food carefully, it survived on crumbs, its body consuming itself without surrender. We waited for collapse that never came. Instead, its eyes remained sharp, alert, tracking everything. The second sign was its will. Among our kind, captivity breeds submission quickly. Denied power, most creatures bend, if not to preserve their lives then to spare themselves suffering. The human bent in no direction. When ordered it moved, but never with the air of obedience. It complied without surrender. Each motion carried a quiet defiance, a statement that though it performed our commands, its spirit remained its own. That invisible resistance began to weigh on us more than if it had fought openly. It was like carrying a weapon that you knew might detonate at any moment. Then came ingenuity. The ship was stripped bare of anything useful, yet in its hands scraps became tools, tools became weapons. Once we found it fashioning shards of metal into a crude edge, small enough to conceal. Another time it had rewired a dead panel to spark faintly, testing how far energy could be coaxed from ruin. We confiscated what we discovered, but unease grew with every attempt, because we knew we never caught all of them. For each tool uncovered, how many more remained hidden? It was not desperation that drove these acts, but instinct, a reflexive need to prepare for every possible outcome. No other species I have encountered reacts to captivity by immediately designing the means to escape or kill. Humans, it seems, cannot do otherwise. The fourth sign was violence. Not the wild frenzy of lesser predators, but a violence rooted in patience. When one of my crew grew reckless and sought to amuse himself by striking the human, the retaliation was sudden and exact. In an instant the aggressor was on the floor, his own weapon in the human's hand, its point pressed neatly against the artery of his neck. The human did not strike, did not gloat, merely held the position until the rest of us intervened. Its expression never changed, calm, focused, utterly devoid of fear. When it finally released him, it stepped back as though nothing had occurred, leaving behind silence heavier than any chains. From that moment forward none of us touched it again. The final sign, and the one I will never forget, was the look it gave a predator. The wreck had long since become home to creatures that stalked the shadows, feeding on what scraps remained. One such beast, larger than any of us, emerged during our search, drawn by movement and light. My crew tensed, ready to flee or fight. The human did not move. It stood, bloody from days of hunger, and stared directly into the beast's eyes. No weapon, no shield, only that unyielding gaze. The creature snarled, circled, tested its resolve, but the human did not retreat a step. In that standoff something shifted. The predator, sensing what we too began to sense, lowered its head and slunk away. I tell you with no exaggeration, the human had won without striking, had bent the will of a predator with nothing but defiance. From then on I understood. The danger of humanity is not their strength, nor their knowledge, nor even their cunning alone. It is the sum of all these things, bound by an unbreakable core that refuses to yield where any other being would collapse. Pain is fuel to them. Loss is teacher, not wound. Where we see impossibility, they see challenge. And when they fight, they do not fight to preserve balance or honor, they fight to win, at any cost. That is what makes them unbearable to face. I have seen fleets fall in silence, planets consumed by fire, rulers torn from thrones, Yet none of those memories scar me like the sight of that bloodied human standing upright when it had every reason to lie broken on the ground. That grin through torn lips, that unshaken gaze, will follow me until the void takes me. In that moment I understood, humans are not merely survivors. They are inevitability given form. What followed after those days remains burned into me more than any scar, because survival itself became a curse. We left that wreck behind, but the human did not vanish from our lives. It haunted us in ways more lasting than flesh ever could. Each of us carried the weight differently, though none escaped it. Some grew silent, unable to speak of what we had witnessed, as though words might call the memory back into reality. Others drank themselves into oblivion, chasing a forgetting that never came. A few tried to mask their fear with anger, declaring that the creature had been nothing more than a fluke, an oddity not worth remembering. Yet even they fell quiet in the dark hours, when silence pressed too heavily and sleep refused to come. I discovered the true measure of the human's impact in my own thoughts. Where once I took pride in my strength and cleverness, I now doubted both. Every time I lifted a tool, I wondered how the human might wield it differently, more efficiently, perhaps even more brutally. When I walked into unfamiliar places, I measured exits the way it had, searching instinctively for every path of escape or ambush. Its way of thinking had infected me, reshaping instincts I had trusted for years. The knowledge that such resilience, such audacity, could be learned and lived unsettled me more than any battle I had ever fought. Whispers began to spread through the ports we visited. Not just from us, though we never spoke openly, but from others who claimed to have seen remnants of humans long ago. Tales bled into rumor, rumor into legend. Some claimed humans once fought wars that reshaped the galaxy. Others insisted they destroyed themselves before any other power could claim them. No two stories agreed, but the tone was always the same: fear, awe, and confusion woven together into something close to reverence. I came to realize that we were not the only ones marked by such an encounter. Somewhere in the unspoken memory of countless species, the shadow of humanity still lingered. The council of my people dismissed it, of course. They called it myth, dismissed my words as the ramblings of one scarred by isolation. They demanded evidence, artifacts, records, as though proof of such beings could ever be neatly catalogued and displayed. When I gave them what little we had, they locked it away and ordered silence, declaring the matter finished. But their eyes betrayed them. Behind the masks of reason, I saw the same unease that gnawed at me. They knew, even if they would not admit it aloud, that this was not myth but memory too dangerous to confront. I often asked myself why humans were so rare. Perhaps extinction claimed them. Perhaps exile scattered them into forgotten corners of space. Or perhaps they chose absence, withdrawing not from weakness but from calculation. That possibility unsettled me most of all. For if humanity still endured in hiding, then every moment we thought ourselves safe was nothing but borrowed time. The idea that such beings could be watching, waiting, shaping their return, it made even vast empires seem fragile. The scars of that encounter were not only mental. One of my companions, the one who had provoked the human, never recovered. His pride shattered, he withdrew from all company, consumed by nightmares in which those unyielding eyes returned to him again and again. Another swore never to step onto a derelict again, abandoning the life of scavenging entirely. As for me, I carry the memory like a wound that never closes. In every shadow I see the potential for its return, and in every stranger's stare I search for that same impossible fire. The greatest revelation came not from fear, but from understanding. All our species pursue balance, safety, stability, survival with minimal loss. We build laws and traditions to preserve what we have, to minimize risk. Humans, I realized, were born of a different logic. They do not seek balance. They seek triumph. Where others endure only until it is no longer bearable, humans endure until there is nothing left to oppose them. Hope and despair alike fuel them. Where one would collapse from hopelessness, they rise sharper, more relentless. Where one would grow reckless with overconfidence, they temper themselves into something harder than iron. That duality, that refusal to be broken by either victory or loss, is what sets them apart. And so, though cycles have passed, the memory has not dimmed. It lingers, not as a story but as a constant reminder of what dwells beyond our comprehension. We did not defeat it. We did not master it. We merely survived long enough to leave. That knowledge shames me, but it also clarifies truth. Humans are not legends created to frighten children. They are a reality the galaxy has chosen to bury because the alternative, facing them again, is unbearable. And still, despite every effort to silence the memory, I know the day will come when silence will no longer protect us. You must understand why I tell you this now, at the end of my years, when silence would be easier. Stories fade, memories wither, but warnings must endure, because the truth is not gone with time. It waits. Humanity waits. You believe them lost, erased by history, but absence does not mean extinction. I fear it means something far worse, that they chose to vanish on their own terms, and that when they return it will not be by accident. I speak to you not to entertain but to arm you. Knowledge is the only shield you may carry, and even that may fail. If ever your path crosses theirs, do not let appearances deceive you. They will seem fragile, they will seem vulnerable, and your instincts will whisper that such creatures cannot matter. That lie is the snare that destroyed those before us. Beneath that frail exterior is a will harder than any alloy, sharper than any blade, and older than any empire. They are not measured by the flesh you see but by the fire that drives them forward, a fire that no force has ever quenched. You will hear leaders insist such beings could not survive against the might of our civilizations. They will point to fleets, to armies, to weapons that darken stars, and declare us untouchable. Do not believe them. I saw with my own eyes that a single human, stripped of tools, starved and scarred, carried within itself the capacity to overturn certainty. Imagine what they were when they stood united, countless in number, armed not just with endurance but with imagination. The thought alone should make you tremble. I often wonder if they walk among us still, hidden in plain sight, their features altered, their origins masked. Could one sit across from you at a trading table, listening, learning, patient as ever? Could one dwell on some forgotten world, training descendants in silence, waiting for the moment to emerge? These are not fantasies. They are possibilities, and possibilities are what humans exploit most ruthlessly. The moment you believe something cannot happen is the moment a human proves it already has. The most dangerous truth I learned is this: humans are not monsters because they are cruel. They are monsters because they are everything at once. They love with the same intensity that they kill. They dream even while drowning in despair. They laugh in the face of certain death, not because they are ignorant, but because some part of them refuses to give the universe the satisfaction of breaking them. That contradiction is what makes them unstoppable. Where other beings fracture under pressure, they grow sharper. Where others surrender to fear, they use it as fuel. Where others die quietly, they die clawing, biting, tearing, determined to leave a mark that will outlast their last breath. Do not think I tell you this to inspire hatred. Hatred is meaningless against them. You cannot hate what you cannot defeat. You cannot despise what you cannot even bend. Fear is the only proper response, and even fear may not save you. If you see one, you must understand that every choice you make has already been calculated by them. They will read you, anticipate you, adapt to you, and in the end, you will realize you were never their opponent. You were their lesson. I have spent a lifetime replaying the moment I stood in that wreck, staring into eyes that belonged to something my mind could not comprehend. I am no longer certain whether what I saw was the face of death or the face of survival perfected beyond reason. Perhaps it was both. What I know is this: every empire, every species, every world believes itself unassailable until the day humanity walks through its gates. That day will come again, whether tomorrow or centuries hence. When it does, history will not record victory or loss. It will record only the silence left behind. So I beg you, if ever your path leads you to a place where whispers of humans still linger, turn away. If ever you find ruins that speak of their presence, leave them buried. And if ever, against every desperate prayer, you meet one face to face, do not seek mercy, do not seek reason. Pray only that you wake from a dream, because reality will not spare you. These are my final words, carved from memory and fear alike. I release them not to frighten you, but to brand into you a truth that must never be forgotten. Humans are not myths. They are inevitability, biding their time in silence, waiting for us to forget what they are. And when they rise again, the galaxy will remember. Until that day, hold this warning in your hearts: never wish to meet a human. Pray with every breath that you never do.